Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Bitchuation Room podcast of the year 2024, the year that will have me up late at night worrying about it. Last night I was like, it just dawned on me. I was like, God damn it. It's an election year. God damn it. I'm losing so much sleep. So much. You think 2020 was bad? Oh boy. Oh boy. Gonna have to up the amount of CBD I take at night, the amount of magnesium, just like, hi, I'm Francesca Fiorentini. I am your host. So good to have you here. We have a great show. Comedian River Butcher is back on the show at long last, damn it. And we're going to be talking about the Iowa Caucuses. Caucus. That's right. The Iowa Caucus. That's what we'll be talking about. Who's leading? Trump. And what's going on? What about the Civil War? Why are we relitigating that in the year 2024? Oh, because they're all Confederates. And we will be talking about Trump's new plan to build something that isn't a wall. That's right. Can you guess? Can you guess? And then Paris Marx of Tech Won't Save Us podcast is back, and we're going to dig into all things AI and why the hell this is not an inevitable snowball of late stage capitalism, how we can fight back, why OpenAI and ChatGPT are BS. Just Paris does some incredible reporting and work and writing, and so I'm always happy to have him here. And I'm excited to get into it because no, it's not good. And no, we don't want AI dolls. And I'm very, very concerned about that. And then finally, the Epstein lists have dropped. They done dropped. And I want to go because look, some people are bad. Some of them are award-winning actors. And can we really throw them under the bus? So I'm looking at you, Cameron Diaz. I think it should, never mind. We'll talk about it later. But my question is, of this list of very famed people that were associates of Epstein, we're doing some matchups. Who do you spare? Who do you save? Who do you forgive? And who do we just trash shoot of memory? Well, who do we memory hole, people, other than Epstein himself, which arguably all of these people tried to memory hole when they didn't have him killed. I'm just kidding. Wow, starting off strong here. But if you're listening, hey, give this Conspiracy Theory podcast 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you are on YouTube or Twitch, what's up? Hey, you guys can become members and help this show, support the people that make this show happen, like Paige, like Max, like myself. And also become a patron, patreon.com/bitchuation room. That's how my preferred support method of choice. You get access to not only this show, of course, but bonus episodes. Every Friday, I go live 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. It is free to watch, but if you want to listen to it or you want to watch back or you want to see a long catalog of all kinds of stuff, you have got to become a patron. Patreon.com/bitchuation room. Last week, I did go into the Epstein list in depth. It was fun. I have some thoughts about Stephen Hawking. I also talked about the resignation of Claudine Gay, the president or former president of Harvard. We read her op-ed that she wrote in the New York Times and had some critiques of that. So definitely go back and listen or watch. And thank you so much in advance for being a supporter. It means the world. But with that, let's get into it. We are Paige. I'm not gonna bring River in by 1:14. It's not gonna happen. I'm late on this show all the time. But I did want to share that you guys, this show is going to be live in San Francisco in 18 days. Yeah. I don't know, or 10, 19, yeah, like 18 days. January 28, 10, I think that's it, 18 or 19 days. My brain is so fried right now, I hardly got any sleep. But anyway, Sunday, January 28th at 7 p.m. at the Gateway Theater, SF Sketchfest presents The Bitchuation Room with me, with Miles Gray of The Daily Zeitgeist, with Emma Vigeland of The Majority Report, with Nato Green of this show and of the Bugle podcast, if you listen to that. It's going to be so good. So get your tickets. There is a ticket link in the bio right now. Yeah, I hope to see you there. Tickets are selling fast. Also, NATO and I are going to be doing stand-up. So we won't be doing stand-up comedy that night, but we will be doing it the night before at a much smaller venue called Lost Church. And you can also get tickets to that. So if you want to see NATO and I do stand-up with Corinda Dobbins and Daya Lakshmi Narayanan, two comedians who've been on this show before, go get tickets to that. I hope you see you there, and I hope to see you Sunday. It'll be a different vibe. Again, smaller, more intimate. Got some new material for y'all. But Sunday is strictly podcast time. So Bay Area, you have been warned. All right, let's get into it, guys. This is What Are You Bitching About? Never not bitching about Israel's assault on Gaza, never not bitching about the fact that we are still in a genocide that's unfolding before our very eyes. And, from the looks of the sad Oscars or the Golden Globes, not a lot of people speaking out about it, and not smiled upon to say anything publicly. It was very sad to see a lot of stars say nothing, which is fine. I mean, look, I don't know. We know they're not, a lot of them aren't getting paid that much either. That's why they get fancy dress up events, because it's, that's what studios do. They're like, here's a gold thing. Please stop advocating for more money. Thank you. We will be using your likeness in the future under our new, AI rules. But no, it's still very upsetting. Look, CNN just has a report out today. 1 in 100 people in Gaza has been killed by Israel. We're looking at 22,835 people. Again, we know the vast majority, 2/3 of those are women and children. 1 in 40 Gazans has been wounded. And yet you have, we're still being told that if you criticize everything that's happening and the indiscriminate bombing of children, you are anti-Semitic. You will lose your job. You will be, I don't know, you will, whatever. Like, you'll lose, as Mehdi Hassan did. You'll lose your show on MSNBC if you ask too many questions. And yet, this is the kind of stuff that's coming out from the IDF, y'all. This is a soldier, Yishai Shalev, who's standing in front of what once was Al-Azhar University in Gaza. And I will translate what he's saying. For all those asking why there's no education in Gaza, oops, we had a missile fall on it. That sucks. Oh, too bad. That's how you'll not be engineers anymore. So he has taken a TikTok and gloating over the fact that Israel bombed a school. Now, look, there's been refugee camps, there have been homes, there have been, all kinds of places, mosques that have been bombed and destroyed in Gaza. There's something about bombing. There's something about defacing and tearing apart a school, which we've seen in a number of instances throughout this war. Israeli soldiers filming themselves doing that. Something extra cruel. I can't put my finger on it. Something about children are the future. Something about trying to better yourself even while you live under occupation, even while your government that you are being punished for having not elected, considering so many children did not elect Hamas. Your government's not really a government, considering it doesn't control the land or the sea or the air. It doesn't have a standing army, doesn't really have secure borders for itself. It doesn't control trade. In fact, there's a massive blockade against basic goods. Not really a government. And yet we're told time and time again, why can't Palestinians just, if they could just elect not terrorists, if they could just better themselves, pull their pants up, and it is so cruel now that like the IDF gloats in this, and the IDF, and that's a regular ass soldier, that's not an actual political representative. Oh, but here is a member of the Knesset. I don't think we have this graphic, but here we do. Tweeting about the amount of not just bloodshed and murder and Gazans who've lost their lives, but specifically about the millions who are now starving, who don't have shelter. And she tweets, or she said on the floor, excuse me, of the Knesset, without hunger and thirst among the Gazan population, we will not be able to recruit intelligence. We will not be able to bribe people with food, drink, medicine in order to obtain intelligence. And we know that finding the abductees is a supreme and super important goal, along with the goals of fighting. They're using it for leverage. That's sweet. That's definitely a war crime. So again, gloating in the fact that they're withholding food, they're withholding aid, while, Biden swears he got protested the other day. He's working I'm working quietly behind the scenes to stop the bloodshed. So quiet. You can. I'm sorry. Where are we? Do I get money yet? And this is on top of the fact that one of the surviving sons of Al Jazeera Gaza bureau chief, Wild al-Dadu, was killed. His name was Hamza. He was killed. He was a photojournalist. He was killed in Gaza recently. So again, another war crime going after journalists. But hey, this is just another day in what we're supposed to normalize. But I'm bitching about that. Just a smattering of evil, people. With that, though, someone who is not evil and who definitely doesn't smatter. I don't know how to introduce you, River. Stand-up comedian, actor, writer. You can watch his special Different Kind of Dude, which was called a, quote, masterclass in culture war commentary on Comedy Central's YouTube channel right now. I had to get the full intro. River Butcher, everybody.
What's up? It's good to see you. I actually have a newer special that's on YouTube also called Someone's Boyfriend. So just letting everybody know if you want to watch a new one. It has not yet been called a masterclass, but it is out there. It's good to see you, Francesca. How are you?
It's good to see you. From the River Butcher to the sea,
That's
Palestine will be free.
That's right. Absolutely free Palestine. Yeah, it's wild to continue to live through a genocide while people tell you that that's not what's happening.
Yeah.
When they give a lot of answers, well, if this would just happen, I mean, when the only answer is stop, like to me, it's pretty wild. I mean, people, are constantly saying this of like, if you wondered what you would do during World War II, you're doing it. And it's like, yeah, I don't know how more plainly to put it. And, watching people complain about the way people are protesting, it's just, it's wild. But I do believe that consciousness is being raised. It's continued to, and I mean, I could go back before 2020, but I think that 2020 is a good inflection point of a big, massive consciousness raising. While the things don't change the way we think they should be immediately. I do believe that like so many more people are seeing this for what it actually is, which is a genocide and not even a war. The fact that people are like, oh, it's that's not war. Like you don't. Bombing citizens, whether they're men, women, or children, is not war. When you tell a population, "Oh, go here, it's safe," and then you purposely bomb them, that's not war.
No.
And so I'm not even arguing for war, but like to use the most accurate language for what's happening is.
Exactly.
Kind of my job as a stand-up comedian.
Yeah, you have to be precise with your language.
Yeah.
No, and yes, and some of the propaganda that's being written is like, oh God, you could really use some punch up. Like you could really, someone needs to go in there and at least be convincing with some of your propaganda. But it's so wild and disheartening. And when I was watching the Golden Globes, and like, again, I don't put this all on celebrities. And I think the way we sort of put too much on comics, I also think we put too much on celebs. So I want to just name that. But it also feels like, Oppenheimer wins a bunch of awards, right? About some, the moral quandaries of whether to develop this like life-ending technology that did murder millions of people. And like that wins the award. And you can only imagine like 30 years from now, we're going to have this like insight into, Netanyahu's life. And like, he's going to be this sympathetic character, but we'll all know what he did was ultimately wrong. Lib shit, which is like, I won't speak out for something until it's like millions of dead and 50 years into the future.
Yeah. Because somebody might be like mad at me or something, it's pretty wild. And the continued, like comparing this to Hamas and things, when I've seen multiple sources that Netanyahu's like, we need Hamas, like that's what we need, like, and it's very clear, like this is how the capitalist, the global capitalist imperialist movement works. That's what America does. We create terrorist cells to fight so that the progressive governments don't happen. Like this is what we do. It's what
it's the history of the U.S. involvement in the Middle East.
Yeah, I mean, it's the history of the United States.
And exactly. History of the world, anywhere, in fact.
Anywhere.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not smart enough to have the full list. I just know there's a full list. You know what I mean? Like I'm not trying to act like, I know everything, but I do know that about this country,
Exactly. If there's one thing I know, it's that we're not the good guys in a lot of these wars. Most of these wars, in fact. We will be talking about a very important war that happened in this country in a little bit, and the fact that we are relitigating it somehow. But River, what are you bitching about beyond, the sort of genocide work-life balance?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's that. I also just want to give a shout out because I don't know. You brought up propaganda. This is not necessarily what I'm bitching about, but I do just want to acknowledge, like, I've witnessed how well propaganda works throughout this genocide that's been happening since October, to see people that I know and go, oh, this is that is part of my practice, is acknowledging, like, oh, this person has literally been exposed to propaganda since the moment they came onto this earth, know, and so, like, keeping that also in mind. But the thing that I wanted to bring up on this show specifically is Mike DeWine's signing an executive order effectively banning any gender affirming healthcare for anyone, not just youth. Not that that's good, but just, specifying that it is banning gender affirming healthcare for trans people for 120 days, which is like the maximum that he can do such an order from his desk. And it was a couple of weeks ago where he vetoed it was Ohio House Bill 68. And this is important to me, not just as a trans person, but as a trans Ohioan, to point this out. I've lived on, obviously I don't live there anymore, but I've lived under Mike DeWine my entire life as a congressperson, a senator, now a governor.
Still,
and
these fools don't go anywhere.
Yeah, he's bought and paid for, just like many Democrats, but he happens to be on the other side of the aisle. And just how dangerous this is, not just for trans people, but for everyone. And in collaboration, to me, with the lack of COVID effort coming from the White House, and the fact that everything is privatized and everything is up to you, and good luck. And also, we're going to ban healthcare. Like, so the window for existence and the window of health and opportunity to exist, whether it's in the United States or in Palestine, is ever closing. And all of these things are related for me, like all of these things of what you of freedom under the guise of law. And like, it just is really it's really disheartening for me, and to see this kind of executive order get passed when it's quite literally irrelevant to no one, to everyone but trans people. It has zero effect on you and your healthcare, your insurance, your backyard, like none of it. What someone else does, it doesn't, So that's what I'm bitching about, is Mike DeWine and this executive order. When people are going homeless, when people are getting sick, when people need jobs, when people need food, it's like, it just never ceases to amaze me, the things that our government wants to do for its people.
Yeah, no, and again, this is the party that believes in freedom and liberty, ostensibly, that is against cancel culture, and they are literally like making people's identities illegal. And we know this was a slippery slope. As soon as they were like, "Oh no, it's just about youth, it's just about minors." Of course, it's not about minors. We know that was always a cover, and DeWine's proved that. And again, the same thing with, if you think, they're not going to go after gay marriage, of course they are. If you think they're not going to go after contraception after going after abortion rights, of course they are. Just keeps going and going and going. But the anti-trans stuff is like, it's so much more targeted and explicit and evil than even, and even anti-abortion legislation, because with that they still have this cover of like, well, every life is precious, and maybe that person can grow up to live a fulfilled life. Oh, what if they're trans? Well, no. Well, then no. Well, then no. Then they can be subject to all kinds of cruelty and, and whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's even more like, no, we would just like them to go away.
Yeah, no, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I feel like there's no daylight between trans healthcare bans and abortion bans, because both have to do with an already here humans' bodily autonomy and existence on the planet. Because what is always being talked about in abortion is the life of the child, and never the person, that the mother of that child, and what that person, and like it's not up like what somebody has gone through. I don't need a litmus test for why somebody needs healthcare. I don't. Everybody deserves care, whatever that care is. And so like even a child should have in this country bodily autonomy. And I know that that's hard for a lot, maybe even people on this live stream, because then you might assume based on the propaganda that what I'm saying is like, oh yeah, a 4-year-old should get top surgery. That's not what I'm saying. That's what they've said about it. And so like I hear you, what you're saying, but it's again, and you're right. Like it's about this pretend idea of possibility, but it's someone else's idea of what possibility is. And if my possibility of my life depends upon the bombing of another country, then that possibility is not worthwhile to me. Just like that possibility is not worthwhile if women, mothers, people who are pregnant, all of it, can't get health care. Because if it's not just like, oh, abortion, and it is literally like, well, yeah, now we don't want you to have this kind of like, that just means they can take away whatever healthcare they want.
No,
not
exactly.
just the ones that we have political and spiritual entanglements with.
Exactly. And that's why I think they're all linked. But I didn't mean to like make a hierarchy. But you're 100% right. And we see that. And that's why I think, yeah, it is all connected. It is all about sovereignty and bodily autonomy. And just like having, just lastly on this, we got to move on, but having a baby and like having a kid and really wanting her to grow up as someone who like has bodily autonomy, can understand when like things are good for her, not good for her, feel good, don't feel good, people are aggressing upon her, people are not, like all of that. Republicans think that like by stripping away kids' rights and right to privacy specifically, which is what all of this is about. It's a right to fucking privacy, that somehow that protects them. That not talking about sex and not talking about gender, that somehow protects them. Fucking bullshit. And it's proven out in every study that the more you talk about that, the more kids actually can not only protect themselves from predators and like and have bodily autonomy, but also live their truth, right?
Yeah. I mean, I personally don't think that the Republicans think that protects them. I think that's what they put out into the world.
Sure.
Because they actually know, and I would throw the Democrats in the ring on this too. It just looks a lot different. That you actually have a controllable population. If an undereducated population, and when I say educated, it's like having your own experience of your life and having conversations, community-based conversations of what sex is, what gender can be, what all these things, that when an entity controls what is and isn't talked about, just like they're banning books. I mean, the Nazis banned books and burned books. We never in this country talk about what those books were about. And that's for a good reason, because they got those ideas from us. And the books that they burned were gender book, like books about transgender people, transsexual people, and queer people. Those were that was what they were
straight Nazi shit. Yeah.
And we literally don't talk about it in here because A, they got it from us. So they don't like our government doesn't want children to know that. And B, that this country doesn't want children to know about that history, about queer people. So like it's so connected, like not educating. And I mean, Adolf Hitler said the same thing about when you educate, like if you educate the youth, you have control of them.
Right.
And in this country,
which Moms for Liberty used as a good thing.
Yes,
They were
as
like,
a good thing.
Isn't that a great quote?
I mean, like,
who
live
said that?
long
Oh,
enough.
Adolf.
Yeah, live long enough. But it is what it is true, but for nefarious ends, you know.
Yeah.
And so, like, we in this country, as a government, we choose to undereducate our youth as that same controlling arm, you know, to
100%.
keep people in poverty, whether it's physical, financial, or knowledge based, and usually all three, you know.
Coming in hot, River.
Anyway,
I love
yeah,
it.
having a great day.
No, it's good. No, I'm like, God, why don't you come back more often? Because we could,
Sure.
you know, we got a lot of threads to pick up here. We got a lot to get to, but okay, let's get to it. There's just one real main focus, which is, of course, setting the stage for this hellacious election year. This is the week where. So all eyes are on Iowa. All eyes on Iowa, definitely a famous Tupac song. Trump is running away with the Iowa Caucus. If you guys don't know what a caucus is, it's basically a game of indoor Red Rover. Everyone goes to a corner and just kind of yells. I've been at a caucus. I don't know. I was in Nevada for the caucus there. Wildly disorganized, River. I'm not sure if you've been like privy to or seen how it goes down. It basically takes like 4 hours and you're like, oh, I'm sorry, who has that time? The people, I was doing Spanish language translation, not to get off topic. Of course, the people who needed Spanish language translation were working on a Tuesday and had to leave after like 30 minutes. So they weren't counted. It's just wild. But anyway, it still happens. And the Democrats in Iowa are doing things a little different. They're voting by mail this year in a whole other, we don't have to go into how undemocratic that is in terms of not having anyone else on really up to challenge the president. But Trump's running away with this thing, y'all. Let's get some polling. As much as, you know, we're going to play the Haley DeSantis, you know, who's in front. No, it's Trump with 51.3% in terms of the Republican vote. And he knows it. He's flaunting it. He's not showing up to any kinds of debates. Of course, why would he? He's got 91 criminal charges hanging over his head. Haley and DeSantis are going to have their little CNN town hall. Ramaswamy didn't qualify. Very sad. You had to get 10%, I believe, in at least 3 polls. Womp womp. But a little bit more about Iowa, and then we'll look at some of the things that he's been saying. Hate is a hell of a drug, y'all, because he's doing like tons of campaign stops. 4 campaign rallies in the last 2 days after visiting the state infrequently in recent months, at least compared with his main rivals, Haley and DeSantis. In the presidential primaries and caucuses, voters cast ballots in their states as the first of 2 steps. The outcomes of those contests determine which individuals called delegates will go to the Republican National Convention to be formally chosen as their party's nominee. So there's a little bit of delegate math. Basically, internal polling according to the Trump campaign, which I'm like, who the fuck is honestly staffing this thing at this point, who like isn't also indicted in, you know, Georgia. They estimate Trump to win 973 delegates by March 5th and 1,478 by March 19th. It takes 1,215 to win the nomination. So he's most definitely going to win this. Iowa will be the big number one. The thing that we're all going to be looking for is who's going to be number 2. Is it going to be Nikki Haley? Is it going to be Ron DeSantis? Haley seems to have pulled a little bit above DeSantis, but there's some thoughts around just the makeup of Iowa as a state. You know what I'm hinting at. And the fact that they are responsive to lines like this from Trump. Trump recently said that immigrants were poisoning the blood of the country, and 42% of Iowa Republican caucus goers liked those remarks. That made them more likely to support him, according to a poll. Specifically, he said they're destroying the blood of our country. That's what they're doing. They're destroying our country. They don't like it when I said that. Addendum, and I never read Mein Kampf. Okay, let's put a pin in that. But then he says, I don't know, some more xenophobic stuff. They're bringing crime, disease, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I've never read Mein Kampf forever. Like, I'm So, my Nazism is like, that's just organic. That's homegrown. That comes from in here. I
Yeah,
never
is
even read that.
that to me, I would love to hear this just because like I forgot in prepping to come on here. I haven't listened to him in quite some time. I forgot like the stream of consciousness is just like such a ride.
It's such a ride.
I forgot about that, but like that was a talking point the first election that he had Mein Kampf on his nightstand, right? That was like
He wasn't floating it as a talking point, but it was sort of widely
it
known
was at a point though, is what I mean. Like, so he's like reaching back and going like, "Hey, remember the archives? I never
Yes.
read Mein Kampf. Also,
Yes.
this is totally I know what you're thinking." Like, it's just wild, you
Oh, he
know.
does it all the time.
Yeah,
Oh, by
yeah.
the way, also, I'm definitely not a rapist, okay?
Right.
Again, and you're like, "Oh, thanks for reminding us about that one rape allegation that
Yeah.
actually you were found guilty of, what is it? Sexual assault." I forgot what technical word they
Yeah.
used to avoid saying assault or misconduct, but it was rape.
Mhm.
Anyway, he loves to do that and then sort of get away with it. Yeah,
Yep.
I'm a hashtag no Mein Kampf. It's like that's his like, anti-gay, no homo. He's like, no Mein Kampf.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
um,
But I mean, Fox News is a hell of a drug, and I'm not trying to scapegoat and not say these people having this opinion is not awful, but it's just like the again, propaganda that's going on in this country is really intense. And
yeah.
I mean, are let me ask you this, Francesca, because
Mm.
I don't know if you feel this way. Are you surprised that he's running away with it? Because I'm not. I'm not.
I uh look, I do think that Americans have, the memory of, I guess I thought maybe like a garden lizard, like just a little, like,
Sure.
I forgot that the cat is the one that took my tail the last time.
Yep.
But the memory of just a day old little gnat, like a
Yeah.
larva, like a fucking, and again, no disrespect, but like there are people legitimately saying he was good for the economy,
Hmm.
things were good under him, like he doesn't have a million dead under his belt because of what
I
his
know.
behavior in COVID. And like that the people who were doing good weren't the fucking ultra wealthy. And like, but again, this is where we are. We're just these little gnats,
Hmm.
like, around, I don't know. I mean, I wish we were around a light, but it's really just a steaming pile of shit. And anyway, so I am a little bit surprised, but it is interesting, especially in a state like Ohio, excuse me, Iowa, which Paige said I would get confused, and I
Yeah,
did.
it happens all the time
And it
to us.
does. Exactly, but that's fine. It's not. But, what else is going on in Iowa is, Kim Reynolds, who's the governor there, has just rejected giving low-income children, food aid. This was part of COVID era benefits. This is free money, people.
Yeah.
Um, it's $40 a month for kids, which, of course, just rolling in the dough. Richie Rich over here. She said, an EBT card does nothing to promote nutrition at a time when childhood obesity has become an epidemic. Bitch, you know what else has become an epidemic? Starvation,
Mhm.
childhood malnutrition. You dumb. I swear to God, I can't even with this woman. I'm so fucking angry. So that's what else is going on in Iowa,
Right.
as well as, a mass shooting. That was fun. Different candidates weighed in and offered their condolences, but said nothing about gun control. Um, Trump actually said, you have to, quote, get over it. We have to get over it. Um, Vivek Ramaswamy called gun control the wrong approach and false hubris in the wake of the Iowa shooting. So I don't know. I think if Haley comes in number 2, River,
Yes.
it might show that like Iowa is a bit tired of the drama and that DeSantis isn't offering them enough of like the anti-woke agenda isn't good enough.
Mhm.
Um, but also she's a woman of color as much as she tries to run from that. And Iowa's incredibly white.
Yeah. Wait, what's her deal? I forget.
She's South Asian.
Oh, okay.
She's half
That's my ignorance, so that's why
No,
I'm
no, no,
asking.
it's okay. She would like you to forget that
Of
she's
course.
Indian. And fun segue, even though she, I guess, identifies as a person of color,
When
Clearly,
it's convenient, it seems like.
When it's convenient, clearly forgot one of the biggest moments in American history, and why it circles around liberating an entire population, the Civil War. And this week, she said, just this little fun quote when she was asked directly why the Civil War happened. Nikki Haley, former governor of South Carolina, could not come up with an answer. In fact, said this.
And couldn't do. I mean, I think it always.
Hang on.
What was the cause of the United States Civil War?
Well, don't come with an easy question or anything. I mean, I think the cause of the Civil War was basically how government was going to run, the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do. I mean, I think it always comes down to the role of government.
In the year 2023, it's astonishing to me that you answer that question without mentioning the word slavery.
Okay, so this is a question from the audience.
That's a great freeze right there. Just want to say that
this face, she's making a like I just saw a ghost face. As the setup was perfect though. What was the cause of the Civil War? For a Republican, they all want to hear states' rights, right? That and I like hats off to this person who asked this question. And she starts off with, well, ironically, just give me an easy one, will you? As if it wasn't the easiest fucking layup. As if, don't make me miss John McCain, people. Don't make slavery. Okay. No, what was about state rights? And then she says something even crazier, which is it was about the freedom for people to do. Let's listen to it again. I can't remember exactly how she worded it.
Government was going to run, the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do.
The freedoms and what people could and couldn't do. Want to bet she's not talking about formerly enslaved people. Want to bet she's talking about fucking slavery. She's talking about what people could and whether they could own other people. So anyway, that was her response. She then immediately after this has tried to do some damage control and was on Fox News of all places. I think it was hang on, let's continue this. She's on Fox and she says this.
The first thing I should have said was slavery. I completely agree with that. When you grow up in the South, slavery is a given. Like when you think of the Civil War, it was about slavery.
You're just trying to find an excuse to change the subject when you grow up in the South. You're just trying to find a way to, still hang a Confederate flag. So that was her response. And then here's Trump in Iowa, who basically said, no, it was about slavery. I mean, that's basic. It was about slavery. He admits that it was about slavery. So I guess points on that. But then he decides to sort of wax poetic about the Civil War. And River, if you can make sense of what he's trying to say, if you miss the stream of consciousness, I think I might be
getting my Trump whispering back, honestly.
Okay. Yeah, it's coming all the spidey senses.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. It was just different. If you take a look, the wars, I don't know what it is. The Civil War was so fascinating, so horrible. It was so horrible, but so fascinating. It was, I don't know. It was just different. I just find it, I'm so attracted to seeing it so many.
The Civil War, if it were a woman, it would definitely be a 10, maybe an 11. Great legs on the Civil War. I'm so attracted to it. So fascinating.
Great war, top 10 war.
Top 10, amazing. We're fascinating. Why?
Many mistakes were made. See, there was something I think could have been negotiated, to be honest with you. I think you could have negotiated that. All the people died. So many people died. That was the disaster. If you got hit by a bullet in the leg, you were essentially going to die or lose the leg. That's why you had so many people, no legs, no arms. If you got hit in
Okay, this is a digression. It could have been negotiated, but no legs, and that was why, because they didn't have hands to shake with, so they couldn't negotiate because they didn't have any limbs anymore.
The arm or the leg, it meant you were up because the infection, gangrene. It was just such a, sort of a horrible time. But I was thinking to myself, because I was reading something, and I said, this is something that could have been negotiated, and it was just for all those people to die, and they died viciously. That was a vicious, vicious war.
Okay, he continues.
Look, he's not wrong.
He continues to talk about Lincoln, and that if Lincoln had just negotiated, we wouldn't even be talking about him. He just negotiated. We could have just just negotiated the art of the deal with slaveholding secessionists. Thank you. Successionists are who I am, fans of the show Succession. Why couldn't, you know what? They could have just negotiated for like a little bit of slavery, just like a little bit, you know?
Yeah, they just
like a
should have sat
skosh.
up at the desk and talked about it, you know?
Like, you can have 1.5 persons, you know? That would have been fine. That's what I'm reading, which is you didn't have to. Why couldn't they just negotiate? Which is like River from. I did read Ulysses S. or the book Grant. Who wrote it? See, I don't read a lot. But it was so fucking good. It's by the guy who wrote the Hamilton books. See, I don't, and he's kind of a rube anyway. The point is this. Robert E. Lee tried to negotiate. He at the end, he was like, "What if we do a treaty? What if we just like, what if we like we just like do a handshake?" And Ulysses S. Grant was like, "No, you need to surrender. This is the wars.
Right.
You fucking lost.
Yeah.
Surrender to us.
Yeah.
You lost." And they're like, "Oh, fine." But it's a Confederate line to say they should have negotiated. They should have gone easier on the South.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's the same as what's happening now. Like, Hamas should have negotiated. It's like, okay, sure, but you're bombing the shit out of them. It's like, I don't know. Like, you know, they should have negotiated with us. It's like, I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
Than like, I have no answer to like the actual intellectual conversation that's actually happening. I'm just like, oh, right. I forgot why people love him, because he just talks. And like, people are so lonely in this country that they're just like, oh yeah, the Civil War was really terrible, and I bet he could have gotten us out of that. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's so wild to watch that and then remember like how much he affects people.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I mean, the amount of it's just sort of like it's like a Klansman massaging your brain. You know, that's what it feels. It's just like, yeah, all these things are perfectly normal. I have to bring in Paris very soon. But the last thing, and look, good on Biden. He hasn't spoken up about an actual genocide. He keeps on funding Israel's war on the Palestinian people, but he knows the Civil War was definitely about slavery, and it was bad.
After the Civil War, the defeated Confederates couldn't accept the verdict of the war. They had lost. So they say they embraced what's known as the lost cause, a self-serving lie that the Civil War is not about slavery, but about states' rights. They've called that the noble cause. That was a lie that had, not just a lie, but it had terrible consequences. It brought on Jim Crow. So let me be clear, for those who don't seem to know, slavery was the cause of the Civil War. There's no negotiation about that.
And he would know because he was there. He was
there.
He was there. He witnessed it. He was among Lincoln's men. If anyone knew Lincoln, it was our old ass president, Robinette Biden.
I mean, I'm glad somebody's saying it. It's hard for me to have any like appreciation for that person saying it, given that he essentially created the new Jim Crow with the crime bill and was in cahoots with all those Jim Crow guys anyways, and shaking their hands and talking about how incredible they are. So hard.
4 more years. 4 more years. La 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 la. 4 more years.
For saying
I don't even.
Very simple.
I can't hear whenever I hear criticism. I want Trump to be president. That's all I hear coming out of Rivers' mouth. I want Trump again. All right, we got to move on. That was fun. Just
a great time.
Just a good time. I will. Maybe we'll save our final clip for the final. We might boot Epstein off this island. Okay. But let's bring in back again for a third time. Third time is a charm, but every time is a charm, really. Oh God, please stop me. Canadian tech critic, author of Road to Nowhere, What Silicon Valley Gets Wrong About the Future of Transportation, and host of the award-winning podcast Tech Won't Save Us, Paris Marx. Paris, how are you?
Yeah, I'm well. How are you?
Good. This is River Paris.
What's up, Paris?
Hello, River.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
Paris, okay, so I just read this, and I sent you a bunch of questions, but I just
Mhm.
read today that, and speaking of transportation, that California wants to use generative AI to try and mitigate traffic somehow. Um, why is this BS? Like, I read this headline, I read a little bit of it, and I was, like, scanning to see, like, if there was anything new or if it would, like, take cars off the roads or create buses or create, like, I'm not seeing, the words, high-speed rail or fucking, trams or anything in this article. No, they're just mapping traffic, but, like, any thoughts on that off the bat here?
They're always looking for a way to like do anything to like not address how car dependent everybody is, right? We'll find any way. Now it's generative AI in order to solve the problem. Boring companies, we're going to drill a ton of tunnels under the roads to put cars in because there isn't enough room for them on the streets. They wanted to do double-decker highways for a while because, they couldn't keep expanding the number of lanes on the highways to fit all the cars on them. It's just anything to not say, maybe everyone shouldn't have to own a car, and we should have some other options for people to get around that actually makes sense.
I was thinking, yeah, like, if you're gonna target me and my license plate and be like, "Bitch, you already, like, went to Target twice this week. Why don't you, like, reduce trips?" You know what I mean? "Don't go 3 times. Like, you can't be on the road." Like, then I might be like, "That actually kinda makes sense." But, no, nothing anyway, that is, let's put that aside, because last time you were on, we talked about AI a
Mhm.
lot when it comes to replacing background actors and writers. We were focused on the WGA, we were focused on SAG.
Yeah,
But I wanted to kind of, like, the conversation's still going even though those labor fights were settled, right?
totally.
There's still this inevitability discussion around AI and generative AI and ChatGPT and all the different, AI artwork generating apps that I don't remember the name of at the moment. Why why does it have to be inevitable? Who drives that inevitability discussion around new technology that isn't actually all that amazing like AI?
Yeah, it's the tech companies, right? If you can say from the beginning, should we adopt this or should we not? It immediately kind of makes it so that the product that these companies want to roll out in the world isn't inevitable and it's something that we have a choice over. But once it comes to, you know, um, AI is rolling out, AI is here, AI has become so powerful, it's like this massive threat to our society and humanity and all of our jobs and all these other things, then all of a sudden you can't say, wait, should we be doing this at all? You get distracted with other questions as to, okay, how do we regulate it? And which companies should be in control of it? And how should we be using it? And like all this other kind of stuff. Instead of asking like the deeper, more fundamental question as to, should it be used at all? Is what these companies telling us, like, is this all accurate? Like, are they telling us the truth or are they kind of bullshitting to get
Right.
us to like buy into what they want to, sell us basically?
Yeah.
And I think that that is really the core of it, right? They don't want us to question these futures that they want to foist on us, futures that make them profit and that increase the degree of control that they have over everybody else.
Right. Right, and you come from, like, a tech writer world, correct? As
Yeah, I've been writing about tech for quite a while. Yeah.
Yeah, right, and what you see so much is that how the media also plays this role where they're, like,
Mhm.
simultaneously really afraid of this, new technology, but also
Yeah,
incredibly enamored and being like, "Oh my god, I talked
totally.
to ChatGPT, and, like, now we're boyfriend, girlfriend," and, like, it's, like, this whole thing, so they kind of, yeah, they fan the flames of, like, yeah, again, the, like, unquestioning sort of
Mhm.
fangirling over these new technologies that, again, as we talked about, rely on a bunch of underpaid people in, like, Kenya who are
Yep.
fucking reading the worst and seeing the worst things on the internet possible.
Totally. Like, I don't know if you remember the early days of like the Chat GPT hype, but like the New York Times and all these major publications were publishing like transcripts with Chat GPT, like online and in their newspapers. And I remember the New York Times was like the most notable one because it kicked off all these other publications doing it. But Kevin Roos, one of the tech journalists there, was like, ChatGPT is telling me I should break up with my girlfriend and like try, doing all this other kind of stuff.
ChatGPT ruined my marriage. You're like, I think you ruined your marriage, you idiot. Like I remember reading that. I'm just like, oh God.
It's shocking how like this is like the level of discourse that we can get over these things, especially when like they're new and just being launched. And these are people who you expect to like have a degree of expertise and like be informing the public. And instead they're just like totally falling for the exact narratives that the companies want people to follow. But like picking up on what you were saying about what actually goes into these tools, like there has been reporting on, the poorly paid Kenyan workers who were essential to ChatGPT and kind of weeding out all of the like really terrible stuff that's on the web that it could have been spitting out at us if those workers were not used. Student interns in China, prison labor in Finland. Like there's a bunch of people, there's a bunch of work that goes into doing these things. And then on top of it, we're seeing the growing number of lawsuits from the New York Times, from artists, from other media publications that are challenging OpenAI and these other AI companies, Microsoft as well, because it's a major investor in OpenAI, for using copyrighted material to train their models. And now many people are finding that these, whether it's the image tools or the writing tools like ChatGPT, are just spitting out like largely plagiarized stuff that they've taken from elsewhere. There's this argument sometimes that these models are learning when they take all this in, but they're not humans, right? They don't have brains like ours. They're just making copies of things and then trying to like, take all the different copies and figure out something that works for your prompt. And that's just taking from all these different places and spitting something out, right?
So you're not afraid of reaching, what's the thing we're supposed to reach that Elon is afraid of?
The singularity, maybe?
The singularity. I swear to God. Fuck Rome. How often do you mention the singularity? That's when you should worry about your boyfriend. So because I love that, which is like, again, I think there's this idea that they're going to get so smart, that it's going to be so incredible. And it's like, why is that not true?
Oh my God. How much time do we have? It's a ridiculous notion, right? Because it assumes that these computers are learning the way that humans do, and that just because they can do things that maybe they couldn't have done before, that means that they are getting more intelligent or whatnot. But I think that there's a lot of kind of credible research on this. People who I often point to, people like Emily M. Bender at the University of Washington, or critics who've been around for a while who are not with us anymore, like Joseph Weizenbaum, who have gone in and said, like, for us to kind of develop human values, for us to develop our knowledge of the world and, the intelligence that we have, it really relies on a lot of kind of human experience and, being raised as a human and all these other sorts of things that these computers, that these models do not have. Part of the reason that ChatGPT or DALL-E, like the image generator, can do things that we haven't seen these tools do in the past is simply because there's a lot more computing power behind them, right? Because all these companies have built out these massive data centers around the world over the past decade. And so they're channeling that power into, churning out these poems and essays and things that aren't very good, and these images that are just like ripped off from elsewhere. So it's not that they are becoming smarter, that they're becoming closer to human intelligence. It's just that we're spending a lot more computing power, a lot more water, a lot more energy, a lot more computing parts in order to try to get this to further emulate it. And I think these companies are incentivized, or, I don't know how to put it exactly. I think on one hand, they're incentivized to make us believe this, but on the other hand, I think you have a lot of people leading these companies who just buy into this ideology that computer intelligence and human intelligence are one and the same. And as long as we can increase like the level of intelligence, whatever it is, then we're all better off, when there's a real kind of distinction between human intelligence and what a computer can actually do.
Mm-hmm. And so specifically about the amount, we've talked about human labor a little bit, but the amount of resources. I don't think a lot of us understand just how resource intensive running things like OpenAI or generative AI is. But can you talk about that from your research and understanding?
Sure thing. Like, I don't have the exact figures in front of me, just off the top of my head. But one of the things that I think the tech companies are good at making us kind of forget is that when we interact with ChatGPT, when we do anything online, when we, store our stuff in the cloud, it doesn't just like go away somewhere that we can't imagine. It goes to this massive data center that is filled with computers where the parts in those computers have to be constantly like cycled out. And we don't do very good recycling of computer parts. In order to create those computer parts, you need mining that happens in many different parts of the world. That's incredibly environmentally damaging. But then running all of those computers in one place requires water in order to cool them. So you need to be located in places where you can get access to a lot of fresh water. And at the same time, you need a lot of power, right? To power the cooling systems, to power the computers themselves that are doing this. And there's a significant kind of expansion of data centers, massive data centers. They call them hyperscale data centers happening around the world right now. One of the things that is quite interesting is there seems to be a growing kind of pushback in local communities around the world, not everywhere, but in some places, against having these data centers built, because people can see that it's using up their fresh water, that it's using up a lot of the power that their communities rely on. Say if they're trying to hit kind of renewable standards, all of a sudden something like a data center comes in and requires a lot more power. You need to be running more fossil fuel energy or something like that in order to make up for it. But one of the things that researchers have found is that often these data centers are located in places where energy is cheap. So, often warmer places and things like that. If you think about the US kind of in the South and stuff, but these are often also places where water is limited. So, places like deserts and places that don't have a lot of fresh water. And so then you're pulling all of this fresh water out of the system and often kind of threatening the water supplies of communities, right?
That's just so wild and runs in counter to everything we've been told and sold about tech. And, goes to the heart of your podcast, which is Tech Won't Save Us. And it goes to the heart of like why it's all a fallacy, why there is still a physical reality to every one of these so-called advances. You write in your blog, disconnect.blog, you write that in Dallas, Oregon, or Dalles, Oregon, Google was found to be using a quarter of the city's water supply to cool its facilities. What the fuck? And it's fresh
that was
water.
hidden.
Why does it have to be fresh water? I don't get that. Can't you just throw sewage on it? That cools stuff down. I guess it's warm. Maybe it's too warm.
That was also hidden for a long time. So people in the community were like fighting to get this data because it wasn't being given over to them, because I believe the city had signed a non-disclosure agreement with Google. And for a long time, like a lot of these major companies, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, will go into places, buy the land under like with shell companies and stuff. So you can't actually see the name of the entity that's doing it. And then it's only after that local communities find out what is actually being planned for this location and who is actually involved in this. And that is when kind of pushback begins. And sometimes they fail, but sometimes they are successful. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Right. River, please feel free to jump in anywhere.
I mean, I'm just curious, Paris, if like how like in cahoots with the fossil fuel industry is. I mean, I know the tech industry is, period, but to get specific about like just AI, because to me, like everything you're saying is like, oh, this is like a handshake deal. We create this thing that on the face of it is advancing human technology and making your life easier. When in fact, it's actually like replacing you and your job, and maybe not you, but the workers that you maybe look down on. And then it's also replacing you de facto by taking your literal water from you. And saying like, yeah, we're also not going to we're going to pull all the funding from like public transportation, any sort of public possibility, and just funnel it all into this AI, while at the same time making shitty poetry out of it, So I'm just curious, like how in cahoots those two things are, because like you have to mine coal to run the electricity to do this, like in this actual country, and then you're mining these lithium and all this stuff in Sudan and Congo. And so it's just like, to me, this is just like capitalism and the Industrial Revolution on, I don't know, steroids, so I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say there's probably not like direct links in the sense that like OpenAI is like, we're partnering with Exxon to like make this happen. But like you can see how there's a direct benefit there, right? Because the AI conversation kind of distracts us from bigger questions because we're focused on this and kind of the supposed existential risk that it creates. The AI boom happened right after the crypto boom, right? And one thing that people might remember about that is that, these companies were running massive data centers, often powered by fossil fuels, and in some cases, in parts of the United States, has gotten fossil fuel, plants back up again to generate the power to mine Bitcoin and stuff like that. And then there's a big collapse in the prices. And so you have all of these like graphics cards and all of this kind of computing power that is sitting idle because you're not making as much money off it anymore. And then all of a sudden you have a big AI boom, and there are stories about kind of the graphics cards and the computing power being used for crypto mining, then being used for kind of AI, generative AI tools. Another piece of that, though, like to make a more direct link, is that not generative AI, like the things that OpenAI is doing, but still AI tools that have been around for a while have been used by companies like Microsoft, Google, and Amazon in order to make the kind of running of oil and gas companies' operations more efficient. And what that means is actually to better allow them to extract more oil and gas from, the wells and whatnot that they already have. And for a long time, the tech companies denied that they were involved in this. But there was reporting in the past few years that confirmed, how they were explicitly going out and trying to like create products targeted toward the oil and gas industry to get them to use this AI to like get more oil and gas out of the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah,
I mean,
there are
who's to say,
very deep links.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to where we started with traffic, just briefly, who's to say that AI won't just be helping like trucking companies? You know what I'm saying? Like, just get, have like more efficient routes, like, which again, like trucking is actually, one of the leading causes of fossil fuel emissions are trucks, like big, like that is massive in this country.
Totally.
And so again, making it just easier to pollute or whatnot, or easier to buy unnecessary bullshit. There's too much I want to talk about, but let's just talk about some of the names, the tech billionaires, the tech gurus, Sam Altman of OpenAI, and Mark Andreessen, who's got this very obnoxious ideology to go along with his embrace of AI, which is tech optimism. Maybe take them one by one. Sam Altman is of OpenAI. There was he got ousted. There were people who resigned. What the fuck happened? Does that have anything to do? Should we care? Tell me about it.
I don't know if you should care so much about Sam Altman being ousted and coming back. I would say one of the interesting things about that is that once he was ousted, because his board some people at the company went to the board and basically said, we don't have confidence in them. And the board seemed to agree and ousted him. Now, there was very little kind of reporting or very little on what actually motivated these people to try to get or to ultimately get Sam Altman ousted in that moment. And a lot of people in the industry, but also in the tech media, kind of rallied around Sam Altman in that moment. And ultimately, he was restored like less than a week later or something like that. But there's been reporting that's come out since then that suggested that he had very aggressive and very bad management styles, were treating people at the company very poorly, making decisions that people weren't agreeing with, the kind of stuff that you would expect from someone like this. But that was kind of held in that initial moment when he was ousted and there was questions about whether he should go back in or not.
That's weird that someone who was invested in working on like AI and would disrespect human beings, just basically, and their own workers.
Shocking, right?
Shocking.
He has a long. Sorry.
No. I mean, from what you've written and what I read about him, he like wants everyone to have like an AI assistant. So he's like chomping at the bit to get rid of, whomever from HR and just replace them all with AI bots.
Totally. He's kind of like one of these accelerationists who will use the language of like, we should be scared of AI, it's a threat to us, but really he does want a big push to like roll this out as much as possible and as quickly as possible. And one of the things at OpenAI is OpenAI was technically set up as a nonprofit, and it has been kind of working to get around those structures for a very long time. So it set up a for-profit branch in 2018 that Sam Altman is the head of. And basically, what has come out of this kind of ouster is it looks like the kind of constraints that were on the company will, be much more kind of thrown off now that Sam Altman is back, because he was fighting to try to escape from, the limitations that a nonprofit status put on the company. yeah,
we
so he's
want the
just
tax
very
write-offs, but we also want to make tons of money. How do we
exactly.
do that? We want to keep the word open in front of it because it sounds cool.
Yeah, but not
Yeah, like
actually
a
open
mega
up
church.
anything. Yeah.
So, and then what about Mark Andreessen, another guy? Like,
Mhm.
you just Google this dude. His head bothers me. Like his, like this. I mean, and I can say that because he's a billionaire and he'll see more money than I will ever see in my life. So I can make fun of the way he looks. But other than his dome annoying me, what the fuck? Who is this dude?
Yeah, I often say I'd like to see Humpty Dumpty have a great fall, meaning Mark
Yes.
Andreessen, and
Yeah.
never get put back together again, Um, so he's a very influential venture capitalist in Silicon Valley who initially made his money, on one of the early internet browsers,
Was it
basically.
Netscape? That's crazy.
Yeah, it was Netscape Mosaic, like something
Okay.
in that. Yeah, I'm not the biggest
Okay.
expert on his earlier days,
Nah.
but anyway, so he makes all this money. He kind of goes into venture capital. He's been a big pusher of things like WeWork. Also the crypto boom, of course. He was a major advocate of that. Everyone should adopt cryptocurrencies. It's going to change the world. And then as soon as the prices went down, he stopped talking about it and started talking about AI instead. So all the same stuff he says about AI today, he was kind of saying about crypto like 2 years ago. But he, I think, illustrates a lot of what's going on in Silicon Valley right now, where you have these billionaires who for a long time were kind of held up as, saving the world, saving the economy, like a different kind of capitalism, like, the good rich people. And in the past few years, there's been a real turn on them where people are realizing, oh, they're just as shitty as any other rich billionaire, any other corporate executive, and probably even worse, right? In the sense that they
Yes.
have this degree of power that is really, I think, unparalleled for a lot of companies because they do operate at this global scale.
Yes.
And so they have been adopting these really kind of right-wing, far-right ideologies increasingly. And so his kind of techno-optimism is basically saying, we need to have faith that technology will build a better world. We need to give power to Silicon Valley to do that. Nobody should stand in our way. And the people who do, are deceleracionists that we should be kind of criticizing and trying to stop and all this kind of stuff. And he's explicitly kind of calling out things like Nick Land's Dark Enlightenment work, the Italian futurists who were fascist supporters of Mussolini, of Benito Mussolini. So very clear connections to fascism in this kind of techno-optimistic manifesto.
Thank you for naming
which you see-
Benito Mussolini, not to be
Yeah.
confused with Mario Mussolini.
Yeah.
He's a lovely, lovely guy. Gardens, bakes, wonderful dude, actually. That is this. I hate all of this,
Yeah.
Paris. Like, I was really depressed doing research for the show around Iowa and Trump again and Jesus fucking Christ. And then I started reading your writing. I was like, oh no. Oh, this is worse.
It gets worse. Yeah.
This is really bad. Yeah, because I think you're right. The even worse, not only but on like a vibes level too, because at least like Wall Street a-holes have the decency to admit they're just after money and they're trying to like short everybody and don't care if like poor people die. Whereas like Silicon Valley tech bros have a veneer of helping folks, and again have things like tech optimism, Sam Bankman-Fried, or Sam Bankman-Fried's altruistic whatever, the capitalism, all this
Effective
like,
altruism. Yeah.
effective altruism, like all this bullshit they have to layer on top of their just greed.
Yeah, it's and there's also like the direct links between tech and what's going on like in US politics and in the Republican Party and in its move to the right? Peter Thiel, of Palantir, a major kind of funder in Silicon Valley, had direct links to the Trump campaign, was kind of funding it and also funded JD Vance and a number of other of these kind of right-wing candidates. What we see right now is a lot of tech money initially behind Ron DeSantis is now moving over to Vivek Ramaswamy as the kind of person who they want to see kind of take on Trump or whatever. I would not be surprised if Trump kind of becomes the candidate if they get behind him as well. That would not particularly surprise me. But you see a lot of these folks in tech adopting these really right-wing politics. Elon Musk, of course, we've seen him go to the border, to kind of sneer at migrants who are crossing there. He is increasingly supporting really right-wing policies. He's been associated with Jair Bolsonaro. He's congratulated Argentina's new president, Javier Milei, and plans to visit there later this year. So he is making a lot of links to like the global far right as well, which I think is, very concerning.
Oh yeah, speaking of Elon, we've talked about Elon with you on the show before, but he has his new AI little app, which is Grok on X. Tell me about Grok. What do you make of Grok?
I don't think there's really much to say.
Does Grok know what a woman is? Does Grok answer correctly? What is a woman?
I believe Grok thinks trans women are women, which was a real triggering moment for a lot of Elon fans when they found this out. Yeah.
Oh, Grok, what a sweet little baby angel, Grok. Oh my goodness.
There was like tweet threads where they were like, you just need to keep asking and like ask the prompt in the right way to make it say that trans women are man or whatever. And it's like, what are you people up to? But Grok is only available if you pay for Twitter Premium or Premium Plus or whatever it's called now.
Sure. So
I don't think it's particularly impressive.
302 people.
Yeah.
Premium Plus executive. The man is a genius.
Now boarding.
He's really good.
Yeah. I've heard rumors that it's basically just like a reskin of one of these other open source kind of AI chatbot tools, potentially the Facebook one. But I haven't seen confirmation of that. But it would not surprise me. Just take this open source thing, train it on Elon's tweets to try to figure out, what kind of opinions you want it to spout, and then give it to, the fans and the cult and let them pay for Twitter Premium in order to try it out.
I want to switch a pivot, and before I let you go, I want to talk about regulation a little bit, but I also want to talk about, we talk about the money aspect, we talk about the labor aspect. I think it's very clear that this is a fuck you to workers everywhere and has been for so long. You talk about the gig economy and the idea that robots were going to take over, and it's the same thing with, crypto, and it's the same thing with AI, and it's all just this, as you say, gold rush. But on a privacy level, on a protecting me, my data, my family, on this level, you've got now fucking Grimes rolling out her Grok, which is like an AI doll that terrifies me. I think that's fucking terrifying. On just a human, should we be doing this? Is this good for us level? Where are you at? How does this, and are people chilled enough by this? Do you know what I'm saying? And the fact that some really evil shit has come out of OpenAI and generative AI.
I don't think so. And it's not even the AI conversation really. There has already been findings that maybe you saw a report a few weeks ago that if you put the same word into ChatGPT a ton of times in a row, it would start kind of spitting out personal information and all this kind of stuff, right? So these tools are trained on everything that's online, right? So it scraped all of our personal data and brought it in to train these chatbots. So all of that is in there, and like I said, it's just making copies of everything, right? Facebook in particular, it's training its shit on Facebook, right? And what is on Facebook? All of our stuff. But
meanwhile,
I think
I can't run an ad that has the word election in it. I'm trying to push for this show. No, straight up, I can't put the word election. It's it looks like this is a political ad and you cannot pay us to run it. I'm like, bitch, you're mining everything about me. You sold all of my information to some Russian oligarch, whatever. Anyway. But yes.
It's wild, but I think that is just the tip of the iceberg, or the latest kind of version of this, right? Because if you think about everything else, they have been slowly encroaching on our privacy and our personal lives and all this stuff for years. Everything we own now has to be internet connected and have a voice activation feature. We need to be able to talk to our microwave and our refrigerator and apparently our toilet now as well. And it's why is any of this necessary? Why do you need the data from all this? And I think that so much of this has just been normalized that it's harder and harder to push back. And like a very clear example of this to me is, you might remember 2013, 14, Google Glass, of course. It was kind of ridiculed out of existence because the people who wore it were considered glass holes. Now these companies are trying to bring it back. You know, you have the Snap spectacles and the Meta Ray-Ban glasses, and Apple has its new like VR headset sort of a thing. And like, I think there's a chance that we do stop it again, but I think that there's another part of me that's worried that, you know, our expectation of privacy has been so eroded over the past decade that we're okay with people walking around with cameras on their faces and constantly recording you now.
But hang on, that was a moment, and I've been thinking about this a lot, because we talk a lot of shit about bullies and bullying, but bullying has a role to play, okay?
Oh,
People,
absolutely.
like, bullies are good when it comes to stopping the robot wars, because those idiots, the glassholes, they were bullied out of existence. Hey, you fucking frigo, what are you doing? You filming me? Get a job, get a life. You know what I mean? You look like an idiot.
People were like ripping them off of people's faces.
Yes.
Like, it's beautiful. Yeah.
Bullying works. That's how we are going to stop. If some of these tech bros were bullied harder, we probably wouldn't be in this situation. That's how I feel. I mean, they could also just be hugged by their parents. You agree? Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, bullying up works, you know? Bullying
Bully up. 100% bully up. Like,
totally.
But it's true. The last time I saw Google Glass, I was in Shallow Alto. I am from there, actually, sadly. God, it's so sad. God, don't even get me started. And I turn around.
Did you read Malcolm Harris's book about?
No, but I really want to get him on the show, and I'll read it. I promise. But there was like a kid who was like 13 and was like, "Hey, Dad," and I was like, "That's who wears Google Glass, is a child." That makes sense. Like everybody else, you're a grown ass person.
It's funny because if you watch like the ads that Apple put out for like its Vision Pro, like when it initially kind of introduced it back in June or whenever it was like a lot of it was like people sitting at home, like wearing this headset on their face. And like one of the like demos that they showed was like this middle-aged guy who was all alone sitting in like this dark room with the headset on his face, looking at like memories he'd recorded of his kids. And I was like, so it's just for like divorced dudes who like can't see their kids anymore, but have too much money. Like,
it's a sadness class.
Yeah,
totally.
Woof.
That is so like, we think we're going to be those fat people in WALL-E who are just like entertained, like in our little chairs, you know, like, you know, those guys who are like zooming around. We're not. We're just going to be like sad divorced dads looking at like the way we were and like watching people touch grass virtually.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to sit in a barren landscape with nothing in it, looking through goggles that like represent trees, as like our last remaining drops of water are pumped over the server that allows the glasses to operate. Like,
man, insane. I love the metaverse. Yeah,
it's so great. It's so cool.
It's fucking. You should really get in now.
There's so much TV to watch, man.
Get in early. Make sure you're buying up all that metaverse land. It's gonna be.
You can watch every season. They got spring. They got fall. They got summer. They got winter. It's insane.
Who needs to move to Mars when we're just gonna turn this planet into like a barren wasteland?
Go to Mars. I can't wait for them to fucking go to Mars. Okay, final Paris before we leave. Biden had this executive order about studying AI. Governor Newsom of California had the next executive order, like, we're going to look at the risks, but also the benefits. Yeah. What do you make of some of these executive orders? Are we getting out ahead of this? Is it a good sign, or what are your thoughts?
Like I think any moment that the government is like seriously trying to be proactive on technology is good in some sense. I think that the problem is that a lot of these kind of discourses and their approach to AI has largely been captured and shaped by the AI industry, right? When Biden and Harris kind of had their meeting with the AI people, it was largely like executives of big companies who control the AI systems instead of like critics and researchers and people who actually, you know, can give you a bit of a different take on what these AI systems
Marx
might
in there. Come on now.
Yeah, invite me to the White House. I'll fly down from Canada for that one. Yeah.
But for real though, like that is part of a healthy study, and it usually is industry that leads it. But sorry, keep going.
No, but like I was saying earlier, like the concerns that they would want us to believe are the issues are like is AI going to become so powerful that it can like control us or kill us? Or, you know, are we on the verge of artificial general intelligence and the singularity and all this kind of stuff? When like the real risks are, how is AI going to be implemented into like the systems and services that we rely on, right? How is it going to be deployed into the immigration system to determine who can get visas? How is it going to be rolled out in the welfare system to determine who has access to social support programs and things like that? Who, you know, who decides if it's going to get rolled out in healthcare to determine whether you have access to insurance or various procedures or things like that, right? I think these are the real risks, and those are the things that government is largely not focused on, especially when they're listening to the AI companies that don't want us to be thinking about that.
Yeah, the last thing I will say is it is amazing that we've gone so far into like, you know, the technology void, and that and we've been listened to so much, especially when we are on hold with any company. And they haven't heard, although they say they're recording, they haven't heard us scream operator every time we're confronted with an automated machine. Just operator 0, give me a fucking human. And like, that is the future. And imagine you just listen to all these calls and you're like, yeah, you know what? We need more. We need smarter automated people. No, you need a fucking human. Like, it's just so wild to me. And
there was a story, I think in N+1, maybe it was, last year, about someone who, I think it was like during the pandemic, and she had lost her job or whatever, and was like looking for some work, and went to stay at like her parents' cabin, and became this like person who assisted the AI like customer service bots. So it was for this like real estate company, and they would go on to this like she would be kind of watching the AI do the conversation, and then when it hit something that where like it couldn't figure out what the answer was, it would kind of shift to her. And so like during the pandemic, she was just having all these like trying to emulate this AI's voice, having these conversations with these people, basically like explaining to them that they couldn't afford this apartment or like all this kind of stuff because the AI couldn't do that piece of it. And it was really grim. Like
that is grim as shit. On that line or note, thank you so much, Paris, for being back. I think.
Of course.
No, everybody.
Ending on a high note, you know.
Ending on a high note. Please listen to Tech Won't Save Us, and then your blog is at disconnect.blog.
Yep.
Disconnect.blog. It's so good. Yeah, there you can follow Paris. There's like you can subscribe, support, and please come back. And thank you so much.
Absolutely. Always happy to chat and come on the show.
Hell yeah. As long as it's a real person. I'm good. River, we're so late, but we have one more quick segment, I promise. We're going to save the Trump, what he wants to build. I'll do that on Friday. But no, Epstein list dropped, all right? It's hot off the presses. So there's some crazy names on there. There's some predictable names on there. I want to do some matchups with you and the audience. Who do you pardon? Who do you spare? This is Pardon Me. Okay, so I went through some of these on the bonus show on Friday. Some surprising names here, but I have just another smattering of. We talked extensively about Alan Dershowitz, who has a perfect sex life. Not sure if you knew this, but perfect sex life.
Didn't want to think about that, but okay.
Just a model sex life. Bruce Willis, Leonardo DiCaprio, Cameron Diaz, Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, Kate Blanchett, Stephen Hawking.
Ooh.
Wow. Donald Trump. Hey, I've heard of that guy. Michael Jackson. David Copperfield. So this is, again, just a few, but I'm sure everybody knows these names. And look, this shit is crazy. This shit is so wild. And it does feel like this is a snapshot of like 1998 or 2001, like who was famous. It's like The Mask just came out, you know what I mean? And Cameron Diaz was like the hottest thing, and like, you know, Kate Blanchett. I think Kate Blanchett and Leonardo DiCaprio were in the movie The Aviator together. It was like that, you know?
Oh, sure, yeah.
I think that was like 02 or some shit like this. Anyway, but in just a like cold calculated matchup,
Yeah.
who are we sparing here? Let's start with pick anyone and I'll pick a matchup for you.
Okay, I mean, I'm gonna go with my gal Cameron Diaz first. That to me is the name that I'm just like, what?
I mean, who?
Truly.
Like, why? Where are we? Like, what is? And again, we don't know that she was on the island. This is none of that. This is just an associate. There could have been, again, like financial advice.
Could this have just been an email? Is that what we're finding out? Like, she was on like an email.
This was like a CC list. Yeah, super embarrassing. Okay, so Cameron Diaz and Bruce Willis.
Who am I sparing?
Who are you sparing out of those two? We got to match up. Again, I feel like Armageddon just came out.
Yeah.
Bruce is having a little bit of a comeback. We didn't know he was a right winger.
Yeah, it's tough because I wanna spare Bruce because of what he's going through, you know. But I feel like
I don't know what he's going through.
Well,
is he
he's
battling
got serious like health issues. Like he's got some very serious form of dementia.
Oh shit.
That's really, really devastating. I'm not sure exactly what it is currently right now.
But also
he might have had it then. I don't know.
I mean, he can always plead that, and also maybe you want to have a little dementia when your name gets dropped on the Epstein list.
Maybe helpful at that moment, but I mean, I guess I don't know. I don't want to play the sexism card and go with the woman just because, like, I assume she's more innocent. This is harder than I thought it was going to be. That's the thing is like, I don't know. That's the other thing is like, these are all rich and famous people. So it's all really gnarly anyways. I guess I'll just go with Cameron Diaz.
Okay. We're saving Cameron Diaz. All right. Okay. I agree with that. I think, and agree. This whole thing is gnarly. I think there's one thing to describe famous rich people rubbing elbows with a sex trafficker.
Yeah.
It's gnarly. It is super gnarly.
There's really no
There's just no accountability also and like still mystery surrounding again his death. But okay, so Cameron Diaz v. Kate Blanchett.
Ooh. Oof.
Kate Blanchett, who was in a movie Tar, which you swear by.
Yeah, we talked about it for a solid 5 minutes before the show. Just because I love.
I was late because of that.
Yeah, just because I love someone's work in like their talent or their work doesn't mean I necessarily love that person.
I mean, is it Charlie's Angels level? Is what I'm trying to ask. You know?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about Tar. Like it's a masterpiece, and Charlie's Angels is a masterpiece. Because I'm judging these things on different, whatever. I don't know. I think I'm gonna just based on Hot Ones performances alone, I'm gonna go with Cameron Diaz. She's making it in around.
Oh shit, she's got a good Hot Ones performance. Okay. I also did like her. I do not like Julia Roberts, but she was my favorite in My Best Friend's Wedding. Also very 97, 2000. Something About Mary came out in 98.
Yeah, okay. Dude, she's crushing it. You know what I mean?
Crushing it. Cameron might go all the way.
We'll see.
Cameron v. Leonardo DiCaprio.
I mean, I love me some Leo in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I love him in Django.
I'm in that. Just on like the viral where he's pointing at the camera. That's my favorite.
Yeah. Very good. And then he's got the holding the little Happy Meal from Django. I mean, it's all good. But he
does have good memes. I mean, I love how that's how the kids know him. Oh, the guy from the like meme where he's in Django. Right. Yeah,
and also obviously his climate change work, very powerful. Do I think he possibly used this person's services? I don't know. So I guess I'm gonna go with Cameron Diaz again.
Let's go. Let's go. Cameron is soaring. And yeah, from his dating history, I'm pretty sure we can bet that Leo used some services.
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay, let's go with a harder matchup because I feel like we might not get to all of these, but
definitely not.
Cameron Diaz, Stephen Hawking.
I thought you would go there earlier, and I'm glad you did it as a host because we got to ride the. I'm gonna go with Stephen Hawking.
Oh wow!
No clue. I mean, what? I don't understand how this one happened.
I mean, honestly, like theory of black holes.
Yep.
Charlie's Angel, like Charlie's Angels franchise.
They're pretty
The Mask
comparable to
performance.
me.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever seen there's something about have you ever seen
Vanilla Sky?
She's the best part of Vanilla Sky is the thing.
I never saw it, but I'm sure she was. I'm sure.
Have you ever seen The Sweetest Thing? Now that is a movie that many people have not seen, and it deserves
Is that where they
to be watched.
swap?
No.
Is it like a holiday thing? Because she was okay.
No, because that's The Holiday, I think, that you're thinking of.
Oh, that was kind of cute. I'm like, not gonna lie.
Thing is just a straight up sex romp, female centered sex romp with Selma Blair and Christina Applegate. It is
must watch immediately.
Some other men, but Thomas Jane is the only one I remember. But it is I can't believe it was ever made. It's so wild. It's like there should be more of that, and Cameron Diaz is incredible in it.
But you're still choosing Stephen Hawking?
Yeah.
Should I tell you the rumors of of what he might have done?
Okay, then all right, I choose Cameron Diaz. I changed my mind. Tell me the rumors.
No. You have to hear the rumor. The rumor is that he had an underage orgy. On the island.
Oh, okay. I recant and I go back to my Charlie's Angel. I go back to my Sweetest Thing, Cameron Diaz. I knew I should have let it ride. This is why I don't gamble, because I get scared.
No, it's fine. You don't need. I didn't give you explanations for the rest. It's just that I happen to know that about Stephen Hawking.
I didn't hear that.
It's alleged. It's alleged. People don't come after me. Stephen Hawking estate. Black holes don't come after me. With
everybody left, Cameron Diaz is gonna win. So that's the game for me.
Okay, so better than Bill Clinton, Donald Trump. I mean,
these are no-brainers.
They cancel each other out. Truly. Like let's make a constitutional amendment about being on Epstein's list. Can't hold office if you were on Epstein's list.
Yeah, that probably would be a good idea.
This is mostly a Cameron Diaz fan podcast. We're going to be reviewing every single Cameron Diaz movie, especially The Sweetest Thing, which sounds like I need to watch alone. No,
it's called the Campod Diaz Cast. That's what our new one is called. The Campod D.
No work. The D-Cast, yeah. Campod D-Cast. I like that.
D-Cast.
Oh God. Okay.
Someone is laughing about that, and I love that person.
Okay.
So just want to say I love you, whoever's laughing at my Campod.
And someone out there has definitely seen that movie and has it on DVD, because of course you do. River Butcher, thank you so much for being on the show. Again, what are your specials and how can we watch and support them?
Oh, yeah. So I have my newest one is called Someone's Boyfriend. It's on Helium Comedy Club's YouTube. But if you just Google River Butcher Someone's Boyfriend, you'll find it. And then I do have my Comedy Central half hour from 2021, which is called A Different Kind of Dude, is on YouTube. I'm also going to be in San Francisco on the 10th through the 13th at the Punchline. So come to that. And then I'll be at Acme Comedy Club in Minneapolis the 7th through the 10th, I believe, or the 11th that weekend. So come to those shows. And then I'll be in Chicago at the Den on the 22nd of February. And the 23rd and the 24th, I'll be at Commonwealth Comedy in Dayton, Kentucky.
Oh, so damn. You are traveling.
That's right. I'm traveling. And so come to those shows. The tickets are on my website, riverbutcher.com/shows. Hit me up. Come on out. I would love to see you guys.
Hell yeah. Yes. All right. Thank you so much, River. Take good care. And thank you, everybody, for being here. Woo, what a doozy. We are starting the year off with just long shows. And I'm, it's fine, I guess. Paige hates me. I hate myself. No, it's great. And I love you all. Thank you so much, Dick Topping, for becoming a new member on YouTube. Yes. Dick Topping. I like dicks with topping. I'll stop. It's probably Richard Topping. Thank you so much for becoming a new member. Dave O'Pruitt on Twitch. Biden witnessed the Romans expelling the Jews firsthand back when it happened. He's been set in his ways for 2,000 years. You can't change him. He did. Seafish on YouTube. Our tax dollars are funding a live stream Holocaust, and I'm trying to deal with that in therapy. Bro, I mean... If a therapist ever tries to make this moment about you, tell them to fuck off, because there is a lot going on right now. It's like in 2020, if you were like, I don't know, I'm a little bit anxious. And the therapist is like, how is this about your family? You're like, it's not, it's about the world. Suburban Housewife says, Nimrod Haley is a highborn Indian. She thinks slavery is normal. Ooh. Les Watts says, in Britain, we have a few Asian and Black Tories in power who have been responsible for some rabidly racist and anti-Muslim rhetoric and legislation ever, or for some of the most, I assume. Yeah, I mean, again, the model minority, which in this country happens definitely with the Asian American community. It's sad. It's true. You sort of get your accolades through anti-Blackness and anti-poverty, or like being against poor people, not actually fighting. You guys get what I'm saying. Morbius Dragon, Trump and Robert E. Lee always sent letters to each other. Oh yeah, scented with perfume. Robert, thank you so much for your super chat. Joe Biden's running in 2024 as though it were 1996 or like earlier. The Civil War was about slavery. Yay! He did it. This is like me like applauding when my baby like eats food that I wanted her to eat. She eats her dinner. I have like a little puppet and I applaud. I do a lot. Oh my God. That's like what I feel like we're all doing for Biden. Like, yay, he said the bare minimum. How are we grateful for that? And yet I am somehow. Bud Roland, always be polite to any AI system just in case. That's so fucking scary. Let's see. Camus Nui should have negotiated just a little slavery, a slavery of the little people only. The little girls. We love the girls, don't we, folks? Yeah, that is truly what he would say. That is a fake Trump quote, if you guys didn't know. The singularity is what tech bros call their love life, says Dave O'Pruitt. Okay, with the fire comments. Julio Dragon, thank you so much for this super sticker. And Progressive Boomer, thank you for being a member for 5 months on YouTube. Hey, Francesca, I love what you're doing here. Your guests are the best. I agree. And DC Trevitt, thank you so much for your super chat. That's super sweet. If you guys want to super chat, you can. You can also donate to the show, TBR-Live on Venmo, TBR Live on Cash App. In fact, that reminds me, I do have, when we bring up the fart song, some folks. Edward Barrett, thank you so much for being a member. Sassy Sarasi says, bullying isn't working on Elon. It's true. And hey, I think there's a raid from Twitch, from the serfs. Oh, hello. And with that, y'all, why don't we do this? Let's ride out with Lay Fart Song. 3, 2, 1. Blast off. All people more the show, and we look at some of the Twitch folks. Thank you to Bilal Khan for becoming a patron. You are so loved and so amazing. And hang on, I'm getting my Cash App open because I know I got a tip. Wait, cut this part. Thank you so much, Jonathan Cook. I see you. I appreciate you. You're wonderful. And thank you to Squishmallow Dragon for giving out a community sub, for sharing 100 bits, Frank Morning Tree, also for resubscribing 25 months strong. Hell yeah. And thank you to everyone that makes this show possible, to Paige Oamek, to Maximillien Inhoff, to Andy Vasoyan, our editor. I love you very, very much, all of you. Thank you so much for your support. We have a great show coming up next week, also for this Friday for the bonus bish. Next week, I believe, y'all, we have Ryan Grimm and Dave Anthony of the Dollop podcast. Oh, I am very excited for that. So remember, fight the power, fuck the patriarchy, free Palestine, and don't just bitch about it, be about it.